Well, after 6 months of quarantine, during which I rapidly descended into isolation-induced madness, we're back in our studio here at 30 Rock in New York City. And well, you guys, it's just nice to be around people again. And as promised, now that we're back in the studio, I will no longer have my old friend, the Sea Captain, by my side to interject with his annoying wordplay. Although I do feel an obligation to check in on him once in a while as he works his way through the 1977 classic novel, The Thornbirds.
Oh, you go, Maggie Cleary.
Hey, relax. I don't miss him either. The dude smelled like clams and he had like 50 jokes with the punchline land ho. Anyway, now that we're back in the studio, I give you my solemn oath there will be no more talking inanimate objects that interrupt the flow of a closer look with their ridiculous interjections. And speaking of ridiculous interjections,
New York's hottest club is Segway.
The president held another fake press conference / campaign rally at the White House where he pretended everything's great as the coronavirus pandemic continues to rage, and now he's trying to pretend he's anti-war in response to the news that he insulted veterans. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Now that Labor Day is behind us, we're entering the traditional home stretch of the presidential campaign, and for some perspective, I think it's worth stepping back 2 weeks to the Republican National Convention when we were all anxiously sitting in front of our TVs saying, do people actually like this? Kind of like how you feel when you're watching one of those TikTok videos where someone eats cereal out of someone else's mouth and you have to wonder, is this a thing now? Will my kids do this one day? And when I tell them not to do it, will they scream that I don't understand anything and then run to their rooms and slam the door over this? Over this nonsense? Anyway, you remember the RNC when the president flagrantly broke the law by holding a political event on the White House lawn, when the Republican Party decided to celebrate threats of violence against protesters by giving Mr. and Mrs. Elmer Dudd over here a prominent speaking spot? Or how about when a profusely sweating Rudy Giuliani mopped his brow, then rubbed his weirdo juice all over that lady sitting next to him? That's like when you touch a baby bird. Now her mother's gonna have to stop feeding her. That's the way you sweat when you wake up from a dream where you were sitting next to Rudy Giuliani. Oh, thank God. Oh! How about when Republicans thought this would be a convincing campaign message?
Joe Biden is basically the Loch Ness Monster of the swamp.
They'll disarm you, empty the prisons, lock you in your home, and invite MS-13 to live next door.
We may not have realized it at the time, but Trump is the bodyguard of Western civilization.
Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
Jesus, are you campaigning or trying to scare some seagulls away from your beach blanket? Those Doritos are not for you! I hope the GOP platform added, replace everyone's TV screens. Well, you're not going to believe this, but according to polls, none of it worked. A new CNN poll had Joe Biden ahead of Trump by 8 points, which matches the national polling average and is basically where the race has been since June. Trump could have disappeared for 3 months and it would have had the same effect. In fact, that's basically what he did. Dude plays golf with more B-list celebrities than the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. This weekend on CBS, watch Huey Lewis and the guy who voiced the Budweiser Frogs miss a 2-foot putt for triple bogey. And a CBS poll out on Sunday asked voters specifically who would do a better job with protests and criminal justice issues, and the answers did not support Trump's so-called law and order strategy.
We've seen the president try to shift what this conversation is about in this election. He wants it to be not about COVID-19, but about violence in the cities. What do your numbers tell you about that strategy?
Biden comes out better on that measure, and particularly, we asked if each candidate seemed to be trying to calm the situation or maybe encourage even more tension. Well, the president, on balance, is seen as encouraging more tension, more fighting.
And of course he is. He's not exactly a calming presence. He dresses like retired Darth Vader. He yells like he's on the other side of 6 lanes of traffic, and even his smile looks like it was directed by Stanley Kubrick. He's the human embodiment of tension and fighting. He's the uncle at the wedding reception who has the rest of the family on pins and needles because they're afraid he'll get drunk and give a speech. I never thought it would out after Tyler cheated on Tammy. Also, don't believe why you're here. I did not have a series of mini strokes. I mean, who wouldn't prefer the uncle who doesn't come to the wedding because Amtrak doesn't service Catalina Island? Second, Trump and his allies have been open about this. They don't want to calm things down. They actually want things to get worse, not better, because they think they can blame it on Joe Biden. Kellyanne Conway came out and said it outright. That's why Trump and his attorney general moved to classify Democratic cities as, quote, anarchist jurisdictions in an insane and deeply authoritarian memo last week. And it's why Trump tweeted this last night. The real polls are starting to look great. We will be having an even bigger victory than that of 2016. The radical left anarchists, agitators, looters, and just plain lunatics will not be happy, but they will behave. They'll behave. It's never reassuring when the president talks about his political opponents like a dean trying to shut down a rowdy frat in an 80s teen comedy. I'm outlawing toga parties. The gentlemen from Theta Delta Psi will not be happy, but they will behave. And as this is the end of Act 2 of this teen romp, I am confident that this will be the final outcome of things. Hello? Oh, it's the boys from Theta. Oh, you do? Oh, they're asking me to ride on their homecoming float. I told you they respond to a little bit of discipline. And just to be clear, boys, you want me to wear pants that are loose enough to fall down if my belt somehow came off? Well, consider it done, and I look forward to it. Look, guys, we're back in the studio, but we're still going to take tangents. Where were we? All right, the real world. Trump's strategy isn't working. Poll after poll has shown that the American people can see through it. For one thing, Trump can't call himself the law and order candidate when he surrounds himself with criminal goons. Just take, for example, Louis DeJoy, who is Trump's postmaster general. Despite having a name that makes him sound like a puppet on a French children's show, Qui est à la portée? C'est Louis DeJoy. As-tu le mail, Monsieur DeJoy? Je n'ai pas le mail. Louis DeJoy, où est le mail? Je n'ai pas le mail. Je ne sais pas où est le mail. This weekend, my mother was my French teacher. That's the best I could do. This weekend, it was reported that DeJoy, a major GOP donor with tens of millions of dollars in conflicts of interest, may have illegally pressured employees to donate to Republicans, then reimburse them with bonuses, which must have really sucked for his employees. Okay, honey, the good news is I got a bonus of $50,000. The bad news is I have to give it to Mitch McConnell. Don't be mad, honey. Where are you going, honey? At his press conference yesterday, Trump was asked if he would be okay with removing DeJoy from his post, and he quickly pivoted to complaining about the many investigations of him.
Would you support an investigation, sir?
Sure.
And
I think let the investigations go, but he's a very respected man.
if it's proven to be a campaign finance scheme, do you think he should lose his job?
Yeah, if something can be proven that he did something wrong, always. You know?
Thank you.
Always. They've been looking at me for 4 years. They found nothing. 4 years. Think of it. For 4 years, from the day I came down the escalator, I've been under investigation by sleaze, and they found nothing.
No, they did not find nothing. If anything, they found too much. Somewhere in the FBI, there's a file cabinet labeled Trump's crimes we didn't have time for. I'm pretty sure I saw the room where they keep the evidence against Trump on an episode of Hoarders. They found, among other things, 2 separate criminal conspiracies to help get you elected, at least 10 instances of possible obstruction of justice, and a whole other separate thing you got impeached for. Just because you're not in jail yet doesn't mean they found nothing. Even OJ doesn't walk around saying, they found none of my gloves at the crime scene. So clearly Trump's approach is not working. Of course, it might not matter since we have an absurd electoral system that lets like 5 states choose the winner, and the winner is often the loser. It's like if you had the winning numbers on a scratch-off, and when you looked at it, the prize just said, give $10,000 to the guy standing next to you. Knowing they have an electoral college advantage, Trump and his allies have made no attempt to reach out to the majority of voters that have consistently disapproved of him since day one of his campaign. Instead, they've invested in a 2-pronged approach of distorting reality by pretending that so-called liberal cities are in chaos and also that the pandemic is over and the economy is great, none of which is true. Trump just did it again yesterday at his press conference.
Under my leadership, next year will be the greatest economic year in the history of our country, I project. We're currently witnessing the fastest labor market recovery from an economic crisis in history, world history. By contrast, Biden presided over the worst, the weakest, and the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. It was a long, slow slog.
Listening to you read off a script is a long, slow slog. It's like listening to Rocky read an eye chart after 10 rounds with Apollo Creed. A. Then not all A's rock. And I'm sorry, you're calling the Obama recovery the worst, the weakest, and the slowest? If anything, that sounds like an action movie franchise about your 3 adult children. Best thing about that joke, you can switch them around, still works. Trump and the GOP have decided their only choice is to spin a fantasy alternate reality where everything is great despite the fact that coronavirus cases are once again on the rise in 22 states, and we've only recovered about half the jobs they were lost in what's been the greatest economic crash since the Great Depression. Just because some of those jobs came back doesn't make you an economic genius. If you gained 30 pounds during quarantine, you can't sell a workout tape called How to Lose 5 Pounds, and that's it. But probably Trump's most brazen and infuriating act of reality distortion yesterday came when he tried to con people into thinking he's an anti-war president. Trump was reacting to the furor over the Atlantic's bombshell report that he called Americans who died in war losers and suckers, which has been confirmed by multiple outlets, including the AP, CNN, and even Fox News, and also by common sense. I mean, it sounds exactly like something Trump would say. He probably thinks anyone who dies is a sucker. I'm going to live until I'm at least 200, just like Rudy. What's your secret, Rudy? You got to sweat out the toxins, boss. At his press conference yesterday, Trump tried to claim he's beloved by the troops, which is not true. Polls show active duty troops actually prefer Joe Biden. And then he took the lie even further, claiming Pentagon officials don't like him because he is against endless wars.
I'm not saying the military is in love with me. The soldiers are. The top people in the Pentagon probably aren't, because they want to do nothing but fight wars so that all of those wonderful companies that make the bombs and make the planes and make everything else stay happy.
Oh, yeah, man, totally. Everyone believes you're an anti-war activist. I could totally see you marching on Washington in the 60s with a beard and T-shaped glasses, holding a sign and smoking a joint. It's like Lenin says, give peace a chance. I mean, I've already given peace a chance. Hard pass for me. Not a fan of the P. Second, this is an especially infuriating lie coming from a guy who has repeatedly touted billions in arms sales to a brutal regime in Saudi Arabia, vetoed a bill to end U.S. involvement in the horrific war in Yemen, massively expanded bombing campaigns across the world, including a record number in Afghanistan, increased the Pentagon's budget for the 5th consecutive year to the point where it's now near Iraq war levels, added billions to a Pentagon slush fund specifically for warfighting, and has bragged about sending U.S. troops to Saudi Arabia because Saudi Arabia would pay for it. Or how about the time Trump gleefully showed off all the weapons he was selling to Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman?
If you look in terms of dollars, $3 billion, $533 million, $525 million, that's peanuts for you. Should have increased it. $880 million, $645 million, $6 billion, that's for frigates. 889 million, 63 million, and that's for various artillery. THAAD system, $13 billion. The C-130 airplanes, the Hercules, great plane, $3.8 billion. The Bradley vehicles, that's the tanks, $1.2 billion. And the P-8 Poseidons, $1.4 billion.
You should have just worn a waiter's uniform and brought the weapons in on a dessert tray. Would you like the Bradley tanks or the Hercules rockets or perhaps the chocolate mousse? You know what, should we be naughty? Should we get two? We're going to do the tanks and the mousse and then just bring a bunch of spoons. But the story about Trump denigrating Americans who died or were wounded in war is such a perfect window into the reality distortion machine on the right, because even Fox News, whose own national security reporter Jennifer Griffin confirmed the story, has sought to undercut it. Here's how Fox treated the story after Griffin confirmed it with her own reporting.
Don't you find it the least bit questionable that the Biden campaign, perhaps the slowest, clumsiest entity since Joe Biden himself, already had an ad made based on this this hoax?
We also know that the story is based on completely anonymous sources and that anonymous sources are participating in some kind of information operation against the president.
You wrote there are no words for how disgusting and dishonorable this is. My question to you is, how do you know it's accurate? How do you know it's true?
Your own network confirmed it. Do you guys watch your own channel, or do you just take naps until Trump tweets something? What? He said he didn't have a series of mini strokes? All right, are mini strokes even a thing? You know what? It doesn't matter. Quick, get it on air and use this Chiron. Stroke of genius. And there's no better indication of the fact that Fox is a propaganda machine and not a real news organization than the fact that they're willing to undercut their own reporting to serve the president's agenda. No legitimate news organization would do that. When the New York Times reports something negative about Joe Biden, they don't use the headline, "Failing New York Times spreads fake news, sad." Just goes to show you they can't actually campaign on their record, so instead they're trying to concoct an alternate universe where coronavirus is over, the economy is back, and a president who brags about arms sales is anti-war. If that doesn't work, Trump will probably just try to convince people that he's Joe Biden. You know, I was just saying to my wife, Jill, no more malarkey. We hate malarkey, don't we, folks? We've had it up to here. with the malarkey. I think it's safe to say at this point that instead of hiring the best and the brightest, the GOP and the Trump campaign are filled with
the worst, the weakest, and the slowest.
This has been A Closer Look.